Very warm welcome to all of our attendees this morning. So let's get straight into it this morning. Post-COVID, or the new norm as it's being called, not something that we really want to be looking ahead at. Everybody's trying to get used to post-COVID, or what is now termed the new norm. Life as we know it has obviously changed. Some have experienced loss during this time. Others have gained a lot more. Some said it's the worst year ever. Some have said it's the best year ever. And it doesn't really seem to have any in-betweeners. Some businesses thrived. Others closed down completely. So where are you sitting in the current situation? Obviously, essential and non-essential during this time seem to blur. What we really thought was essential didn't really pan out during the pandemic, and essential became something different. It was more on how we should survive as families and not necessarily on what we thought our priorities were. As plumbers, you brought a great deal to combat COVID-19 during these past few months. You've kept our homes filled with clean water, and that helped us to wash our hands and keep our homes disinfected and sanitized. And we want to say thank you very much for that. As plumbers, you were essential workers during that time. You put yourselves out on the front line during very lockdown levels, especially when COVID had hit quite a high peak. You were out there, you were constantly working, trying to keep us safe, and at the same time doing your part to keep yourself and your staff safe. We have heard stories about some who have not been able to adjust to the new normal. They just cannot find any way to try and readjust or maybe change the way they view post-COVID life. So here are 4 tips, and this comes directly from you. These 4 tips, we may have put in additional suggestions into these tips, but really each one of these comes from you out in the industry. So as plumbers, this is what other plumbers were facing and what they've done to try and really slow down, but at the same time not create too much of an issue for the new norm, as they are calling it now. So here are 4 ideas to maybe get you started to try and embrace the change. Don't forget to exercise. A regular routine of exercise, obviously very important. Avoid the chaos. What does that even mean? When I saw that coming through on an email, I thought that was a very clever, a brilliant idea. Actually, something that I implemented straight away when I heard it. And then look to a positive. I think this was also brilliant. A lot of things around us are negative. So how are we actually facing the future with positivity? What should we be doing? Now, again, these are just suggestions. We are not saying that this is an element of simplicity. It's not just going to be a quick mindset change. It's something that we're going to really have to work toward. But really the start, or the first step that we should be taking, is embracing the change that we are currently facing. So if you are one of those who thrived during COVID-19, or if you're one of those who perhaps lost a lot during COVID-19, those changes have now set itself in your life where it's changed the direction that you are currently facing. And because of that, the change is there, and we realize that even simple tasks, something as simple as shopping, has become a nightmare now. And there might be other simple tasks in your life that have become somewhat of a nightmare as well. And since we cannot change it, we need to embrace the change. And so there's certain things that we can do. And we just looked at shopping as one that came through as a suggestion. Being out there in the shops currently is very hectic. We're standing in queues, we're standing in lines. Black Friday, I haven't seen any videos of anybody getting hurt during Black Friday, which is brilliant. And this is because we're all obviously trying to do different things. And some of the suggestions came through on online shopping. Is that a possibility for you? Can you perhaps download the app of your local store? I know here in Haribespoort Dam, we've got an app for the local Pick and Pay, and you are able to then order the things online and then just drive through and go and pick it up if you just tell them the time or date that you're going to be collecting it. Yes, they are going to be using your credit card details, and so you obviously want to find a store or a chain store that's obviously going to be using encrypted passwords and things like that for your data to ensure the protection of your data and also your payment channels that you may be using. Perhaps you don't use this avenue. You cannot do online shopping. It's just not a possibility for you. And maybe you rather want to get your shopping delivered to you. Well, that was also another suggestion, a costly one that I found. And I thought, well, although that's a good option in order not to go out shopping, it does tend to be a little bit too expensive. So I thought I'd rather put in a different suggestion in here, perhaps go at different times. Now, for many of you out there in the industry, you're constantly driving around from one site to the next, from one home to the next. And can you carve out some time to assist yourself, your employees, maybe chat as a company to see whether it is a possibility to carve out some time during the day where shopping centers are not too busy? And that way, you could perhaps go in the middle of the day, earlier in the day, or perhaps later in the afternoon when the shops are not so packed. That way, you can get your shopping done and you can obviously assist your employees to feed their families and get the needed stock for their families that they would need instead of exposing them to those very difficult times where shopping centers are just over full and all these rush hour or peak hour times. So it's important to ask for help, and we should do this as companies. We should really look and see what it is needed amongst our employees and come up with solutions that best suit your situation. But if we do not ask for help, it's not just going to tap us on the shoulder. We have to go and really be open and honest with our employer and employees. So it's important to understand that we're all dealing with these changes together. Rightly so, some of us have thrived and some of us have lost, but still they are changes. And no one has any tried and approved techniques of coping with change. But this doesn't mean that you should carry your burden silently. So reach out, and as you've done over the past weeks, you've told us about what has affected you and what you've done to change. But please continue to do this. COVID hasn't stopped. Although the end of the year is here and all of us are feeling a little bit more refreshed, we do feel like we're going to some sort of normality for December. But what happens next year? Well, we need to plan and prepare for it as well. And so we want to assist you in figuring out solutions together. If we can stand together, we can then fight together as well. The second suggestion was on exercise, and this is a brilliant one, not just for safety, but also for health. And when we talk about occupational health and safety, health is extremely important, especially now during COVID-19. Sanitizing and disinfection of our homes has become the new norm. In fact, even before that, cleanliness was a very big part of our lives. Housekeeping was something that we always spoke about in terms of health and safety. But it has just become a lot more pronounced now in order to ensure that we keep our immune system boosted. But maintaining a stable exercise routine during a normal work week has worked before. And it has also helped you to calm a troubled mind, especially if we are anxious a lot, and maybe we are anxious with our current situation. But just to let you know, it does work and it will work again. Exercising will help to keep you away from stressful news in the headlines. It will help you to stick to a healthy work from home routine, or perhaps just a healthier routine if you are going out. And many of your plumbers are actually going out. But many of you who work for plumbing companies are working from home. And this is because you are doing your admin or paperwork at home. And so what is a suggestion to help you daily maintain a sense of normalcy? Well, working out daily will help you to get back to that little bit of normal. You see, it helps in your schedule when everything else around you kind of feels uncertain. And you can take charge of that exercise. Now, it doesn't mean you have to go out and buy a whole lot of equipment because there's a lot of exercises that can be done at home that don't include uh, the requirement of exercise equipment. So there's no reason why we cannot take up or start adding to our daily routine a good routine of exercise. So why do we say this? Well, it's because it's tried and tested. At a scientific level, exercise has been proven to facilitate the release of endorphins in the human brain. And what this does is it gives a person a sense of well-being, it boosts your mood, and it neutralizes stress hormones. And these are all benefits that we really need at the moment, especially in the anxious situation that we find ourselves. Again, we want to just remind you that if you are going to exercise, any new exercise routine comes with pros and cons. And so if you can, please always consult your doctor before taking on any new diet or exercise routine. Do your research before and make sure you listen to your body. What works for one person does not necessarily work for another. So when we take this as a suggestion, please remember to apply that suggestion not just to the best of your ability, but what is suited to your body as well as to your situation and circumstances. But a very good suggestion that came from you as well. The third suggestion was avoiding the chaos. And I thought, well, what does this mean? And this was brilliant. I thought this suggestion is something that I took on immediately. It was stop obsessing over endless coronavirus coverage, having apps and News 24 app and on social media following the trends and what was actually happening in the world with COVID-19. And all of that just kind of overwhelms a person. So switching off your TV and don't over research the pandemic helps to keep your anxiety at bay. And this is a very, very good suggestion. And the comment here was, all you need to know about this virus is how to protect yourself and the people you love. And this will obviously extend to yourself, your employees, and your family as well, and perhaps even extended to your clients as well. So yes, we do need to know what is current and what is updated, but do not overdo it. What do we need to know? Well, figure out what is important for you to know, and then also if you do need to find out the statistics, or if you do need to research a little bit more about COVID-19, please go and get your information from credible organizations. Try and stay away from too many posts on social media of just opinions that are out there from people, perhaps who do not have the full picture, or who may be giving news that is not accurate. So go to the CDC, go to the WHO. Here in South Africa, we want to obviously go to the National Institute for Occupational Health, and always try and follow the Department of Health or the Department of Labor website when we are looking at coronavirus information. Again, we also don't want to over research the pandemic. See what is needed for you, protect yourself as well as your family. And then avoiding the chaos also means keeping your home organized and clean. So if you want to reduce your stress levels, try and stick to a normal routine as much as possible. And two suggestions came out here about eating with your family. Try not to eat in bed, for example. Eat at a kitchen table, dining area, as you would do before COVID-19. So let us not get into the routine of disrupting our entire lives. Don't allow it to affect that, because it is something you have control over. Instead of working from the sofa or your lounge suite when uh, you are working from home in your pajamas, try and keep some sort of structure. Get dressed, go to your desk or a home office, try and set one up so that you can try and keep some sort of normal routine if you are working from home as well. And this will just help us to not only de-stress, but put ourselves in a mindset that we have broken away from the chaos and try and stick to some sort of normal routine. And then positivity, a very big suggestion that came through all the time was to try and keep positive. And here's one thing that is absolutely certain: the coronavirus pandemic will eventually end. Now, we know that no one knows when, but it will. Life as we know it will go back to some sort of normality in the future. Yes, certain changes are unprecedented and there's things that have to have changed, but also there are certain changes that many of you have made that were actually for the benefit of yourself and your family. And things that came through was like simplifying your lifestyle if you can. Many realized that by just readjusting and prioritizing what they thought was important pre-COVID, post-COVID, they realized is no longer necessary. And some of the suggestions that came through from you was canceling their gym membership. They didn't need to have a gym membership. They started exercising during the lockdown at home. They realized by doing a little bit of research online, they found many different working at home exercises they could do with their family. Now, many said, well, I need motivation to exercise. I need somebody with me. I need that environment. Well, what they did was they created that environment at home and they gymmed with their loved ones. And they found that a huge benefit as well as cost saving. Gym memberships can range in hundreds or even thousands of rands over the years, and this saved them quite a bit of money. Gambling was another thing that many just thought had to stop. And this is because it was excessive. There was money that was not actually there anymore. And gambling just seemed as though it was just not worth it anymore. Many stopped buying the latest gadgets. They became content with what they actually have currently, and they didn't need the latest gadget, the latest phone, the latest tablet. They realized that they could do with what they have. And so they started saving and prioritizing just by doing a little bit of readjustment on what they thought was important. Some have started an online business. During lockdown, they decided to show off some of their talents. In the plumbing industry, they showed how to start installing a plumbing sort of section, how to do welding right from their own home. And they've got a few followers, and they have now started to sell certain products or even their own services online. If this is not possible, could you start baking from your kitchen? Obviously, keeping good hygiene and housekeeping habits for local stores or schools or even your local environment. Many have done that here in Hearties and have found overwhelming success in doing that as well. Some have started growing their own veggies and herbs, and that was also brilliant during lockdown. We've seen some good successful stories. We've also heard of some not so successful stories. But the point is, we're all trying. And if you keep trying, eventually you'll find something that is working for you. So if you saw your suggestion here today, thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Thank you for doing your part to combat COVID-19 and also to bring to our attention some of the solutions that worked best for you. We realize that some of these suggestions might help you in the future as well, and we hope you can take them on. Again, we also know that maybe what we've said to you today doesn't make a really big impact, and maybe only something resonated with you, perhaps on just readjusting or prioritizing what you see is important. Again, you are still in the current situation, and we understand that, and we feel for each one of you out there that have been affected drastically by COVID-19. And out in the plumbing industry, we want to stay together, we want to stick together, and so please reach out to us with any comments or suggestions again, so that we can keep trying to keep in touch with you and perhaps find additional solutions where we can. You're not in this alone. We want to assist you, even if it's just a word of encouragement. We want to be able to give that to you so that your stress levels and anxiety can obviously just abate if we can. Now, we do have a little bit of time, and I'd like to discuss the case study of negligence that happened on the 23rd of November. Just a little bit of health and safety news. It has been posted on our Facebook page as well. What is actually happening out there, and why did this happen, and how can we stop it from happening? Now, again, this is a tragedy, and so the information that we are going to be discussing is a little bit sensitive. So if you do feel sensitive to this type of information, we rather suggest that you perhaps read this in the local newspaper, but you can then rather log off if you prefer. If you would like to continue on, then the story that we have on the 23rd of November 2020, and this was in Hammanskraal, was about 3 young boys that passed away because of a contractor that didn't follow the correct safety procedure. Now, obviously, the city of Tshwane is taking legal action against this contractor because 3 boys drowned in a water-filled trench where proper safety procedures were not followed to prevent certain incidences like this. So what was the issue? Well, the mayor, Randall Williams, announced on Monday, this was Monday the 23rd, that another boy had drowned in the township, and this was in Hammanskraal Extension 10, Ward 49. This was again on Saturday afternoon. Three boys, two 10-year-olds and one 9-year-old, were found dead in an under construction stormwater trench in Tambo Extension near the traffic department in Hammanskraal. So again, the plumbers out there who were performing the works on the construction site did not have adequate safety measures to prevent the under construction stormwater trench from having adequate access control. And so legal action is now being pursued against this contractor by the city of Tshwane after a fourth boy drowned in Hammanskraal in a trench that was dug by an external contractor working on a housing project. So up to this stage, 4 children had died. So obviously the storm on Friday before Monday the 23rd, what had happened was it blew some barricading into the site, and these boys were now able to access the site, and they were using this to swim in these trenches. And it is believed that the children drowned. 2 days later, another 2 young boys fell into that trench, and one of them unfortunately had passed away as well. Now, Williams said he considers this to be negligence on the contractor's part, as it is clear that the contractor did not take the necessary precautions to ensure that there was adequate access control to the site. Again, taking shortcuts or perhaps not budgeting enough for adequate access control to that site. Remember, red danger tape does not cover us in terms of liability when it comes to access control. What is negligence? Well, negligence means they knew what they should have done. They just chose not to do it. And so, because he says that it was negligence, that the contractor did not take necessary precautions. Necessary means it is mandatory to ensure your site is safe. Wherever we discover incidences or instances of poor safety or failure to adequately secure sites, the city will deal with contractors harshly. And this is because of the rise and increase in the number of children that are dying due to poor safety measures on construction sites. So this case study really shows us the need for health and safety to really be taken seriously, especially when we are starting to close out. And so we want to discuss a little bit more about this next week. Closing out, how do we do it? If you are a contractor on site, what should you be doing to closing out? We will touch base a little bit on paperwork as well, but specifically we are going to be looking at ensuring that the site that you are working on, even your offices, your warehouses, your workshops, are they closed out to ensure the safety of yourselves as well as those who may be around that site. Please, we want to encourage each and every one of you to really take seriously the import of ensuring safety as well as adequate access control to the sites that we are working on, especially as plumbers digging trenches and digging out excavations. We may potentially put others at risk while we are not there. Yes, we always have the saying, the boys should not have been there. Well, we fully agree with you, but the boys should not also have been able to access that area if there was the correct safety procedures in place. Thanks, Jacques.